Welcome to Right Side of the News. I'm Nick Gardner. I've got my special guest, Leslie Sawyer, on. We're going to talk about new taxes and that Gavin Newsom and state of California is going to shove down our throats pretty quick. But first, I want to tell you that I have the total compensation, the salary for Barry Tippin for 2025. It amounts to $600 and some thousand. 360 some is his salary, and then 200 and something is his saved vacation and sick leave. And if you tune into KCNR1460.com, 96.5 FM, 1460 AM Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, we're going to unpack it in depth. So be sure and be there. You know, they don't usually let us get that information until a year later, but I managed to sneak around and get it.
You got that backdoor information like Dolores gets on people.
I know. I'm hoping that she'll take me on as an understudy. You know, she's filed, I think, 267 lawsuits. I'm not sure. I haven't heard of one of them come to fruition. Have you?
No. You know, though, last night she was talking about one of the speakers and pulled up all kinds of stuff on him that he said's false. I'm just waiting till the day that she gets hit with a libel lawsuit that ends her antics.
You know, if you get the opportunity, you should go to Shasta County's website and find the video of last night's meeting and listen to the comments. You've got the failed recall people up there just ragging on Kevin about sending a letter in opposition to Signature Health's $200 million health campus that they want to put into the city, they want to put it out in Shasta Lake City. And the thing is, it's going to be a regional campus. And what that's going to mean is all the nutcases from Humboldt County and Del Norte County and all the other counties are going to send them up here to be treated. And we're going to have a whole bunch of nutcases running around. Besides the fact that it's a for-profit entity, they're wanting to get a $150 million grant to fund it. It'll be privately owned, and there'll be guaranteed clientele that the taxpayers are going to pay for. And if it doesn't pan out, they can walk away, and Shasta County's stuck with it and all the expenses that go along with it. And on top of that, I thought, you know, we can't even get enough medical doctors here. How are we going to get a bunch of psychiatrists here to run this show?
Right, to staff a facility like that requires so much.
And if you really wanted to know about that in depth and Kevin Cry's thoughts on why this isn't a good idea for our community, you can go to the same website on KCNR1460.com and click the archives. And a week ago, he unpacks it in depth, and you'll understand. And I dare say you'll agree with him, unless you're a failed recall person.
Right. And unless they changed it, it's under the Poke the Hornet's Nest archives. That's where I found it on Sunday.
Well, you know, the thing is, if you go to Kevin's site, mine is on every other week. And if you go to my site, Kevin's is on every other week. So you can find it on all of
both.
them. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes. But we've got something very interesting to see today. I stumbled across this. It's a half-hour video on new taxes. So shall we start with that?
Yeah. Let's start. There's a very long disclaimer that I don't know anybody's going to read, but...
What if I told you that California is quietly preparing one of the biggest tax overhauls in decades, and millions of residents could soon be paying more than ever before? In 2026, new proposals could raise property taxes, tighten deductions, and even affect people who've already moved out of the state. Lawmakers call it fair adjustment, but critics say it's a full-blown tax trap disguised as reform. Imagine working the same job, earning the same income, yet somehow your tax bill jumps hundreds, even thousands of dollars. From hidden bracket shifts to new wealth assessments, these changes could hit ordinary Californians the hardest. So what's really happening behind closed doors in Sacramento? Let's break it down, step by step.
Number 1. The hidden income tax hike. It sounds harmless enough. Bracket adjustments, inflation alignment, or revenue neutrality. But behind these soft words hides one of the most silent and painful tax increases California has seen in years. It's called bracket creep, and it's quietly pushing thousands of middle-class families into higher tax categories without them even realizing it. Here's how it works. When inflation rises, wages often increase just enough to help people keep up with the cost of living. But instead of rewarding that effort, the tax system can punish it. A teacher who got a small raise to cover rising grocery costs may suddenly find herself in a higher tax bracket, not because she's earning more in real value, but because the income thresholds weren't fully adjusted for inflation. In 2025, inflation in California remained stubbornly high, hovering around 4.2%, while wage growth averaged only 3.5% in most sectors. That small difference means millions are technically earning more, but are effectively poorer, and now paying hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars more in state income tax. Families who were once comfortable find their paychecks shrinking as deductions fail to stretch as far as they used to. A couple earning a combined $110,000, barely enough to manage in cities like Los Angeles or San Diego, may now owe an extra $1,200 to $1,500 a year simply because their bracket shifted upward. The problem goes deeper than numbers. Psychologically, Californians feel trapped. They work harder, clock in longer hours, and yet their reward is a higher tax bill and less money left over for rent, groceries, or childcare. For the middle class, already squeezed by rising utility bills and fuel costs, this hidden tax hike feels like a betrayal. Many thought inflation adjustments would protect them, but instead, the slow grind of policy and delayed bracket recalibration means ordinary workers are footing the bill for the state's budget gaps. Experts warn that by 2026, if these creeps continue unchecked, over 60% of working Californians could fall into a higher bracket than they were in just 3 years earlier. And with the new tax proposals linking certain income thresholds to statewide averages rather than inflation data, the cycle might repeat every single year, slowly eroding paychecks in plain sight while most taxpayers don't even notice until it's too late.
But the tax creep, was he referring to our taxes getting more creeping up, or was he referring to the people in Sacramento that are instigating these taxes?
It's the people that are hiding all the increases. They're the creeps.
Well, you know, what's worse than the creeps is Joe Biden's inflation.
Right.
Oh, gosh, you know, I went to Winco yesterday. I got $5 or $15.75 worth of groceries for $41.35, and I thought I got a deal.
Right. Well, and the thing is, they make a good point. You know, you might have an increase, you know, your job might increase with inflation, but a lot of industries don't. If you work in education, you don't get an increase just because there's inflation. When I worked in the schools, I was not getting an increase. I had been there for 6 years, yet places like McDonald's and everywhere else were raising the minimum wage. I had worked there for 6 years, went up 6 steps on the pay scale, and was going to be making the same amount as somebody entering to fast food because minimum wage went up and the salary scales at places like that didn't change. So, yes, there might be increases, but a lot of industries don't.
Well, I'm not a big fan of an automatic increase for government workers when private sector workers don't get that. Private sector workers generally get a raise for doing a good job. The company is profitable.
Right. And I'm not saying that they should, but I'm saying after 6 to 8 years
You should have
working
got
there,
a raise. Heck yes.
you've worked your way up to $18 an hour, right? Starting at 14, whatever you started at, worked your way up to 18, and then now all of a sudden these 16-year-old kids at McDonald's are going to be starting at 18.
That's right.
Right? And so those tax brackets don't allow for that type of, you know, then you move up in a tax bracket. Single mom, 3 children, I missed my tax bracket this year by $307.
Meaning that you moved
went up.
You creeped up. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's well, I don't know. It's got to change. The tax consumers can't continue to keep making more than the tax producers.
Right.
Let's see number 2. This is going to be interesting. The property tax pinch, Proposition 13.
Property tax pinch. For decades, Californians relied on Proposition 13 as their shield, a law designed to keep property taxes predictable and affordable. But that shield is cracking. In 2026, subtle new adjustments and reassessments are reshaping the very foundation of home ownership in California. What was once a stable system is now creating financial shockwaves for both long-term homeowners and new buyers. County assessors across the state are quietly updating property valuations to reflect market realities, which sounds harmless until you open your next tax bill. In some regions, homeowners are reporting annual increases of 6 to 10%, especially in high-demand counties like Los Angeles, Orange, and Santa Clara. The pinch is particularly brutal for retirees and families who bought homes decades ago. Imagine paying off your mortgage after 30 years, only to discover that your property tax bill now rivals what your mortgage payment used to be. Many Californians are discovering that even owning a home outright doesn't mean financial freedom anymore. Rising home values, once seen as a sign of wealth, have turned into a ticking tax bomb. And while the state insists these adjustments are meant to ensure fairness, in reality it's pushing longtime residents to the brink. Then there's the transfer trap. When a family sells their home or passes it to their children, new reassessment rules can instantly reset the tax value to current market prices. That means a property once taxed at $2,000 a year could suddenly jump to $12,000 or more overnight. Young Californians hoping to inherit their parents' homes are being blindsided by massive property tax bills, forcing many to sell family homes just to stay afloat. Commercial property owners aren't spared either, with the recent tightening of loopholes and a push to reclassify certain mixed-use properties. Even small business owners are facing hikes that threaten their operations. Experts predict that by mid-2026, the ripple effects of these reassessments could lead to a new wave of property flight as residents and investors sell off California assets and move to lower tax states like Nevada or Arizona. The irony is haunting. The same real estate boom that once built California is now driving people away. For millions, the American dream of home ownership in California has become a financial nightmare, where every tax season brings new uncertainty and every reassessment notice feels like a ticking clock counting down to economic exhaustion. Number 3, the wealth transfer trap.
So there you go. They want to they want to get rid of Proposition 13. I had some 4 or 5 guys come down to my house to get some wood off of a walnut tree that I had to take out. They used it to turn it to make bowls and that kind of stuff. And one of them worked for the tax outfit. And he comes over and we start chatting. And he said, "How long have you lived here?" And I says, "Well, about 23, 24 years. "Oh, so you're not paying your share of taxes, are you?" Because, Proposition 13, my taxes are low. But,
Right.
That's my reward for buying a house and staying in it. People seem to
Right.
think they need to move up and move up and move up. And I stayed in the same place. I've been there 25 years now, and I can afford to live there. I can't sell my house and go buy another one and pay the taxes that they're going to want. And when they take and reassess my house, I'm not sure I'll be able to stay there if the taxes go up to $8,000 or $10,000 a year. And what they don't seem to realize is they're $750,000 homes. Their taxes are going to go up too. Of course, they work for the government. The city of Redding, they took and had their employees pay 20% of their CalPERS retirement or their health care, whichever it may be. But then they gave them a 15% raise. It usually works out a little better for them than it does for me.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, they're going to make it, like you said, people who have taken the time, worked their whole life to pay off their house, are now no longer going to be able to afford to stay there. But also, they're trying to affect the transfer fee. That's exactly what the federal government is trying to undo and lower, because there should be no reason that you get penalized for passing something you worked your entire life to pay off onto your kids, your grandkids, your family. And California's like, whoa, there's money we're missing out on.
That's right. A person should be rewarded for working their whole life and buying a house and staying there and not moving up. I was reading a deal that, in the 1950s or so, families of four were being raised in a 1,200 square foot house that had one bathroom and everything. Now everybody's got to have a 4 or 5 bedroom house with 3 or 4 bathrooms and a 3-car garage. And, you don't really need that.
The 3 bathrooms is nice, though.
Well, I live by myself. I can get by with one just fine.
I've got 3 kids, and we spent, 17 years with 1 bathroom.
Yeah?
And so when I got into my house, I brought the kids over. I was like, okay, this is Mom's new house. There are 3 toilets and 3 of you. Everybody go put your butt on the toilet, and I don't ever want to hear you fight and scream over a toilet.
Hurry up!
Yeah.
I was in Washington, D.C., and years ago when it first started, they had canals instead of streets, and they had a canal tender there. And it showed a little old house, and I doubt if it was 600 square feet. And he and his wife raised 18 kids in it. It took them a long time to figure out what caused kids. But,
How do you have time to keep making kids with that many people in the house?
hence the name Quickie. But, we're actually spoiled. Our poorest
Very much, yeah.
poorest citizens are richer. I read where they're richer than 96% of the population of the world.
Right.
And, even our poor people, they've got color TV, they've got refrigerators, they've got food, In fact, Sunday on Poke the Hornet's Nest, I'm going to play a little clip and you'll know exactly what the government shutdown is. And I was reading something that was spooky this morning that if this SNAP program doesn't get done, we're going to have some serious food riots. People rushing grocery stores and things like that because I dare say most people that are using food stamps and that's their only source of income, they don't have a big pantry built up.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know that when you haven't eaten for 3 or 4 days and the neighborhood has run out of kitty cats and dogs, there's nothing you won't do for something to eat.
Hey, that was Chicago a couple years ago, not here.
Okay. So we're going to go to number 3. I hope you're enjoying these.
3. The wealth transfer trap. California has long been known as a land of opportunity, but in 2026, it's becoming a land where wealth itself is under watch. The state's proposed Wealth Assessment Initiative aims to ensure that the richest Californians pay their fair share, yet the fine print reveals something far more complex and far-reaching. This plan doesn't just affect billionaires with private jets, it could also touch successful professionals, retirees, and business owners who spent decades building their savings. Under the new proposal, assets like stocks, real estate holdings, business shares, and even art collections could be reevaluated annually for tax purposes. It's a subtle shift that turns wealth into a recurring liability. The heart of the issue lies in how wealth is defined. California's tax authorities are considering expanding the scope beyond income to include unrealized gains, meaning if your assets increase in value, even on paper, you could owe taxes on money you haven't actually earned yet. Imagine your home value rises by $200,000, but you never sold it. Under the new framework, that appreciation could trigger a tax bill. It's a radical idea that's sparking concern not just among the ultra-rich, but among middle and upper-middle-class Californians who've worked hard to secure their financial future. Many financial experts warn that this could ignite a massive exodus of capital. Already, data from 2025 shows record numbers of high-income earners moving to states like Texas and Florida. If California proceeds with this system, it could accelerate that trend, draining billions from the state's economy and leaving behind a shrinking tax base to shoulder even heavier burdens. For those who remain, The new rules mean more paperwork, more audits, and more anxiety about how their investments are being watched and valued. There's also a moral debate brewing. Supporters argue that wealth taxation is a step toward equality and fairness in a state with staggering inequality. Critics, however, call it an invasion of privacy, a government reach into personal assets that were never meant to be publicly tracked or annually priced. Either way, the wealth transfer trap represents a new phase in California's tax evolution, a system that no longer just taxes what you earn, but what you own. And in 2026, that shift could redefine what it means to be financially secure in the Golden State, turning long-held dreams of prosperity into a cautious struggle to simply keep what's yours. Number 4, the property tax.
That's not a new idea. I talked to a fellow less than 6 months ago. He owns a boot store in Redding. And the feds came in and told him that his inventory has gone from $100,000 to $150,000. And he said he had to write them a check for $18,000.
Yeah.
And this is California just hitchhiking on those.
Well, and I mean, they talk about it, I don't know at what point during this, about the top 1% of Californians pay 50% of the taxes. And so the thing is, we are a state that has such a mismanagement of funds. We're a state that has such malicious spending. Let's just say that, right? We have a train to nowhere. Money disappears. We have fire
Lots of
funds
money.
that go nowhere, right? We have 17 dams that were supposed to be built and refurbished or whatever. None of it done, right? We have such a mismanagement of funds, and yet they want to get every penny. So that painting that you worked your whole life to get, now you're going to get taxed on that. And your house increasing in value, even though you were smart and managed your money and you bought it then, you're going to get taxed on that even if you don't sell it. And
The appreciation value. If you've lived in your house for 25 years and the appreciation value has gone up $300,000, they want to tax you on that $300,000, even though you still live there and haven't sold it.
right. And that's why we need to look at who is running our government, because they have made government so complicated that nobody can understand it and nobody will ask questions. We all just sit here and go, why is it that now I'm working 3 jobs to pay the same bills that I could have paid with one 10 years ago?
That's right. And I don't have time to spend with my kids. So my kid's running amok. He doesn't have
Right.
any parental guidance because mom has to work and dad has to work.
Yeah.
And we've got to hire a babysitter, and
And
she's
then we're
back
too
there
busy
smoking
to ask
dope.
questions.
Yes.
And we're too
and we
busy to
trust the
get involved.
educational system to educate our kids. Come to find out, they're turning them into fruits.
It's a problem.
Yes, it is a problem. We need to.
We all need to think who we have in charge, and we need to gut the entire thing.
Get rid of 2/3 of the government employees. In fact, we only need safety and infrastructure we can't use, or we can't provide for ourselves. And the rest of it, we don't have to have. You know, parks are nice, but we don't have to have them.
Was it you that was saying maybe we should go back to paying the council, and having the mayor be a paid position and getting rid of the
Well, yes.
city manager and assistant city manager and all of that?
In a lot of cities, you elect a mayor, and he does the job that the city manager is doing. And that would work fine unless you get somebody like Kristen Schrader in there, and you can't get rid of her. She and Leonard Modi, in my opinion, are the main reason we're overrun with mentally ill and homeless people from out of the area. They just opened up the welcome wagon. So if you got one, so that's why I think that we should elect a mayor every 2 years. And a friend of mine told me about a town down, I think he said in Arizona, where they don't have any city employees. They have a city manager, and he hires private entities to do all of that. That would be hard to do in California because of the prevailing wage requirement when they hire somebody. But that's another story. But, well, you could have the sheriff take over the police responsibilities. have a private entity run the garbage, the transfer station, and all of that. I thought that they should sell Big League Dreams to a private entity. If you only sold it to them for $5 and they kept it open and kept it going, we'd be happy, wouldn't we?
Oh, yeah. Well, and the thing is, mentioning California and, what it costs and the waste, we have our ROV in there after hours, moving things. His wife's in there. She's not getting paid. She's moving things. They're working hard. And all the people that don't have jobs, don't have a purpose, don't have anything better to do, are calling OSHA and filing complaints.
Do you know what's funny about that?
That he's doing extra work. Who cares? Mind your own business.
Listen to this. OSHA can only protect employees. If you're a private entrepreneur, they don't cover Clint Curtis. They cover the people that work under him. His wife is not employed. OSHA's got nothing to say about what went on up there, period.
Which is also why Joanna was able to be let go, because those top 2 positions are not union positions.
And she wasn't qualified to do any other position in Shasta County. Shasta County has a policy of finding someplace else for somebody that's not doing their job, and she didn't qualify for anything. Hadn't you heard that?
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ask Patrick Jones. He'll tell you about it.
Oh, wow.
Among other people. But, yeah, and on top of that, we create work, county work. There's one gentleman there. I don't know if I'd call him a gentleman or not, but he is the caregiver for his wife, and Shasta County's paying him to be a caregiver. Can you believe that?
Right.
And there's a lot of that going on.
There is. Well, and the thing is, and going back to the whole ROV thing, they were getting up there and speaking about it. There's people that should be hired to move that. Okay, so we're going to take somebody from this department. We're going to take 2 weeks later to have them come move a decorative safe that Clint and his wife can go move it where they want it
Sure.
in an hour.
Well, it's just like the Pac-Man machine that Kevin Cry had put in his office when he first moved in.
Oh, and they made somebody come in and wire it.
They made a big deal about it because he brought it in himself. Or no, they made a big deal because government employees had to take it in for him. But that's the policy. He couldn't legally have me and you go in and move it in for him. It's against the rules. Same with hanging a painting. He couldn't hang a painting in there. He's got to have a government employee do it. And they get up there and rag all day long that he's wasting government employees' time.
Right. You can't have it both ways. All right. You ready to find out how else we're being squeezed?
This is as far as I got when I saw this video. I says, well, let's play this and talk about it.
California homeowners have always carried a heavy financial load, but 2026 could push that burden to an entirely new level. The state's new Property Equity Adjustment Plan sounds harmless on paper, a reform meant to modernize outdated property tax laws. But behind the policy language hides a financial squeeze that could hit both new buyers and long-term homeowners hard. For decades, Proposition 13 protected property owners by capping annual tax increases, giving many families the stability to stay in their homes. Now, new legislation aims to revisit those limits, arguing that the current system unfairly benefits older homeowners while starving local communities of funds. What this really means is that property tax rates could climb dramatically, especially for homes reassessed under new valuation rules. Real estate experts warn that even modest changes could add thousands of dollars per year to household budgets. A family in Los Angeles paying $7,000 a year in property taxes today could see that figure balloon to over $10,000 within the next few years. Not because they renovated.
I'm going to pause it right there because look at these buildings right here, right? This is what, downtown San Francisco?
That's what I'm guessing.
Right? If you go down there now, you might see 1 or 2 of these shops. 3/4 of it's boarded up and empty.
And there's homeless all over the place and
Because-
probably some feces laying
Yeah.
around.
The homeless, the uncleanliness, people don't want to come down here and shop anymore. People don't want to bring their families down there. And all these businesses risk having people just break open the windows and go in there and grab whatever they want and take whatever they want. And so places like this don't look like this anymore because they've closed up. Those restaurants right there, you got like what, 8 restaurants right there? They can't afford it because the price of meat has gone up. The price of vegetables have gone up. You know, John's talked about it before, the taco truck in his parking lot, the cost of limes.
But I've noticed the feral
quadrupled.
cat population's receding.
Right, but they're saying, you know, it's the people who are in their homes who have been there too long that's unfair to the communities. No, it's your mismanagement of public safety. It's your mismanagement of how you're spending the tax money that is leading to this.
Well, it was a Gipper says that we don't have a money problem, we have a spending problem. That's, I think everybody's aware of that. It started with Gray Davis, I believe. He had a $63 billion surplus, and I think he spent it in a month when he entered office.
It's insane.
Rush Limbaugh used to call him Gray Matter Davis.
I love Rush. All right.
Because the state reclassified their neighborhood as high value. For retirees on fixed incomes and middle-class families already fighting rising mortgage rates, this could be financially devastating. The policy's ripple effects don't stop there. Renters, too, could feel the heat. As landlords absorb higher property costs, rents are expected to rise again, pushing California's already sky-high rental market even further out of reach. That means both homeowners and tenants would find themselves paying for the same policy reform in different ways, one through taxes, the other through rent. This creates what analysts are calling a double squeeze on the middle class. Adding to the frustration, the state has been exploring new infrastructure and environmental levies, meaning that property owners could face additional localized taxes tied to things like renewable energy projects or transportation upgrades. While these initiatives are framed as progressive improvements, the cumulative effect could leave homeowners wondering if they can even afford to stay in their properties at all. In a state once built on the dream of home ownership, 2026 is shaping up to challenge that very foundation. Californians who spent their lives working towards stability now face a system that seems determined to turn stability into strain. The question isn't just whether people can afford to buy homes, it's whether they can afford to keep them in a tax climate growing more unpredictable by the year. Number 5, the exodus penalty.
Well, there's so many people leaving, they're going to start fining you to leave California. They might start fining you maybe $150 across the border to go gamble over in Reno because that's money you could spend here.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Go ahead, Leslie.
All right.
We'll hit this next one.
Just when thousands of Californians thought they had escaped the high cost of living by moving out of state, 2026 brings a shocking twist, a set of proposals nicknamed the exit tax, or more officially, the wealth departure assessment. The idea behind it is simple but controversial. If you built your wealth in California and then decide to leave, the state still wants a piece of it. Lawmakers argue it's about fair contribution, ensuring that people who benefited from California's economy don't take their fortunes elsewhere without giving back. But for many former residents, it feels like a financial handcuff that follows them across state lines. Under this plan, individuals who move out of California but retain assets such as businesses, investment portfolios, or property would still owe annual taxes on their net worth for several years after leaving. Even if they establish residency in another state, California could continue to track and tax certain types of income or unrealized gains, depending on how the legislation is written. Tax experts warn that this could create a bureaucratic nightmare, forcing families and retirees to juggle tax filings in multiple states, with California maintaining jurisdiction over parts of their financial life long after they've left. The fear of this exodus penalty is already changing migration patterns. Real estate agents in neighboring states like Nevada and Arizona report that potential movers are pausing their relocation plans until they understand how these laws will be enforced. Wealth advisors are calling it a psychological tax, one that discourages mobility and punishes success. And for business owners, it adds a layer of uncertainty that could affect investment decisions for years to come. Critics say this approach reflects California's growing dependence on high earners to fund its massive budget. With more than half of state income tax revenue coming from the top 1% of taxpayers, Sacramento can't afford to lose them, literally. So instead of making the state more livable, the government appears to be tightening its grip, hoping to slow the financial bleed. But this strategy could easily backfire. The more residents feel trapped or penalized for leaving, the more determined they may become to cut all ties, transferring assets, selling property, and relocating businesses entirely. In short, the exodus penalty might not just discourage people from leaving, it could accelerate the very financial flight it's trying to stop, leaving behind a hollowed-out tax base and a deepening sense of distrust between Californians and their government.
So I can go along with some of that, and I cannot go along with some of it. I believe, this is just a thought here, that if you suck the government's hind tit your whole life and you've got an astronomical retirement and you move to Idaho, maybe you should kick some of that money back here because you didn't produce anything. But you take Silicon Valley, an entrepreneur that sells a website that goes worldwide and he makes his money worldwide, maybe they shouldn't be taxed if they decide to move.
Right.
And you take professional sports. You take these superstars. They come and play a game in California. California wants income tax on a game that they played here, percentage-wise, to their salary. They get quite creative about getting money.
Right. Well, and what's going to happen with that is there's going to be teams that are going to refuse to come play in California. Then Californians are going to say, well, why would I be here if my favorite team's going to move to Vegas or my favorite, and that's what's happening is people won't come here. And then we're going to see people leave. And they're saying, 1% makes 50% of the tax income. And so we can't afford for them to leave because we've mismanaged it. So we're going to force them to stay. They were taxed on everything they earned as they earned it. They've already contributed. But you want them to contribute more on their way out?
Except for government employees.
Right, but I mean, how many of that 1% are government employees? If you take out Maxine Waters and you take out Nancy Pelosi, how many of them, and Gavin Newsom?
You look at just the city of Redding, the police and the fire.
Right, but 600,000, you're not the top 1% of California. The top 1%, that's Silicon Valley. That's, the people who own vineyards. That's the people who, are in the entertainment industry. Those are, that's the 1%. And
you've got a point there, Leslie. I always figured the top 1% probably should be about 250,000 on up. That's my opinion.
Well, and you would think that, right? Because the average person makes what, 30 to 50,000.
I never had to worry about that. I never had that problem.
I never had the luxury of being in the top 1%, nor probably will I ever, right?
Well, at my age, it didn't happen, so it's probably not gonna.
Right. Well, who knows? This podcast may take off.
Well, Joe Rogan has been sniffing around, I hear. So let's go to this next one.
All right.
6. The small business breakdown. For decades, California has been the beating heart of innovation, home to dreamers, startups, and small business owners who built success from scratch. But in 2026, that dream is beginning to crumble under what many entrepreneurs call the tax and fee avalanche. The new state budget proposal introduces layers of additional costs disguised as compliance measures, sustainability fees, and local operating surcharges, all of which add up to one thing: financial suffocation for small businesses. What's worse, these aren't headline-grabbing tax hikes, they're stealth increases, quietly buried in new regulations that few business owners even see coming. Take, for example, the new Community Impact Fee, which charges small businesses extra for their environmental footprint, even if they're running a 2-person shop. Combined with higher payroll taxes, new reporting requirements, and surging energy costs, these changes could add thousands of dollars a year to operating expenses. for small restaurants, repair shops, and local service providers already recovering from years of inflation and labor shortages, 2026 may mark a breaking point. Many are choosing to shut down or relocate to states with lower costs and simpler tax systems, like Texas or Arizona. The irony is that California's leadership continues to praise entrepreneurship while making it nearly impossible to survive without corporate-level resources. Major tech firms can absorb the costs, hire accountants, and restructure finances, but for the local family-owned cafe or independent contractor, even minor tax changes can destroy margins overnight. Economists are warning of a growing Main Street recession, where small businesses vanish one by one, replaced by big corporations and national chains that can afford to play by the new rules. And it's not just the taxes, it's the uncertainty. New state-level discussions about franchise tax adjustments and equity surcharges leave small business owners guessing what the next fiscal year will bring. The unpredictability discourages investment, hiring, and expansion. Instead of fueling growth, the state's tax environment is strangling innovation at its roots, making California, once the golden symbol of the American dream, a risk few entrepreneurs are willing to take anymore. In 2026, owning a small business in California no longer feels like opportunity, it feels like survival. And for thousands of local entrepreneurs, the harsh truth is setting in. It's not competition or demand that's killing their business. It's the state itself.
Number 7, the retirement raid.
So, if you've got this video, I'm sure we're going to put it on the website. Go to a big screen and watch it because it shows you how California used to be, and it's absolutely stunningly beautiful, the things that were showing us about our state that I've never seen. And it's an old one, because one thing that caught my eye was a sign for a shrimp cocktail, $1.99.
I saw that same sign and I almost joked. It's $1.99 to smell it.
That's
to
right.
actually eat it, it's $15.99.
Well, I think it's 50 cents a shrimp now, so you can pick your size.
Yeah.
And then I saw a guy on a bridge running, and he's running in the lane between the two lines of traffic. I thought, boy, he's taking
brave.
his... Oh, boy, I'll tell you, he's not... But anyway, it's just stunningly beautiful, this video is.
Well, and it does a good job of showing the whole scope, right? It shows neighborhoods. It shows, big industrial areas. It shows
Lakes.
huge parks. It shows, but then it also shows downtown where there's trash just on the concrete, and
Well, I haven't seen too much of that.
it shows a little though,
Yeah,
and it shows where things are shut down and fences are around buildings that are not going to be repaired.
It's deceiving when you see one place like that, because you take my neighborhood. I and another neighbor, we walk up and down the street at least twice a week and pick up the trash, so it doesn't look like the rest of Redding.
Right. And I mean, it's true.
Yes.
You have to care, right? And
Oh,
you spoke
yes.
about that last night at the board meeting when you said you gave somebody something.
Oh,
they
yes.
threw the trash on the ground.
I'll tell
then
you about
somebody
it.
else gave somebody something and they threw the trash on the ground and you came by and said something about it. I mean, how often is that the case?
Well, let me tell you the story, what happened. I went to work yesterday morning at 10 after 6 at Victoria's Bakery, and there was a tall-colored guy, black guy, probably about 6'4", real skinny, and he walks over and he walks around my truck, and he's looking at me, and I'm sitting in there looking at him, and I roll down the window. I says, "Can I help you?" He says, "Hungry. You want a sandwich?" I give him a sandwich. He goes over by a pillar and throws a wrapper on the ground and eats his sandwich. And I thought, well, if he's still here, I'm going to corner him when I get done with my job, because I didn't want it to turn sideways while I still got to be there. So I get done, and he's down in front of the donut shop, and he's sitting there with a juice bottle, a Hi-C juice bottle, and a couple donuts, and he's got his trash on the ground. And I walked over, and I says, "You're not from around here. Where are you from?" He said, "Mississippi." I said, "Well, listen, I want to show you something. Come here, I want to show you something." He wouldn't get up. I says, "Well, you see right down there, it's about 50 foot away." I says, "That's a trash can. pick up your trash and put it in a trash can. Oh, no, he's not going to do that. I said, we pick up our trash around here. If you'd pick up your trash, we wouldn't resent you so much. And I left. But that's the mentality we get of people that are coming to our community, and it's going to be more so with Signature Health's $200 million campus, in my opinion.
Well, and I mean, we've touched on the Signature Health thing a couple of times. We have businesses, and with these new taxes that we're seeing, right, these impact fees and all of that, we have local businesses that are doing the work, right?
Yes.
Mental health facilities, small in-home ones, with the numbers to show that their system is working. The problem is, to be able to have the license to function, they have to offer so many beds to the city of Reading, so many beds to, Butte County, Tehama County, whatever other counties they partner with, or whoever they're getting their funding with, partners with. And there was a lady there last night who has spoke for years at the board. Her family's been affected by all of this. And she said as she was trying to get help for her daughter, there were places that had beds available, but because her daughter's address was Shasta Lake City, that bed wasn't available for her because it was being held for Tehama County. Why would we partner with one more thing that is going to section off beds, not based on need, but based on location that this person's coming from, right? Why would we not take existing infrastructure and say, how do we fix what's wrong? How do we get the open beds that are designated for outside area and make them available for our people who need them?
That's right.
Right?
And some of these derelicts that come around, there's no mental health that's going to help them. I sometimes think maybe a lobotomy would be the answer.
Well, but I mean, I don't know. But the thing is, then how many of them become
Well, they just stumble
dependent
around
forever?
Well, yeah, but at least they're not raising havoc. They're not raping people. They're not throwing trash all over the place. They're just walking around like the big Indian guy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I don't know enough about it, but I know if we were to take the time and money that we're looking to put into these other money pit ideals,
That's right.
and we looked at what we have existing and how to make it better and more accessible to our people, we can find a solution.
Well, see, that's right. And, we come up with these programs that attract out-of-towners. That's the problem.
Right.
Just like Kevin said, I want to take care of Shasta County. And I want to take care of Shasta County. I want to take care of my house before I start worrying about the neighbor's house.
Absolutely. And you know what's crazy? So I went to the Mental Health and Drug Advisory Board meeting a few months ago, probably 6-7 months ago. I was introducing one constituent to another. They had some stuff in common that I needed them to work on together. And so I sat there, and Kimberly Johnson was giving her spiel about what she had envisioned to apply for this funding. And at the time, do you remember the Wagon Wheel of Justice?
Oh, yes.
Thing that they were trying to
That was
push?
one of Mike Johnson's wet dreams.
Right? Well, she had something similar in mind, but it was all like mental health services and other health. It was basically like a nonprofit paradise to get all this funding and dump it in, right?
Yep.
And at the time, we had just ran a bunch of stories on what happened to the funding at Children's Legacy Center and Arch Collaborative. What happened to the funding? And we got hit with a cease and desist order. Well, I say we, but it was Chris Street and Mountaintop Times. Got hit with a cease and desist order. Stop looking into it. Well, I'm sorry. Those are public funds that you're being given. And you are a not-for-profit company, and you don't want people looking into it and asking questions? That tells me everything I need to know about what this lady's planning to do. So then I show up, and it's within weeks of that, to this meeting, and she's coming up with this, we're going to put in this, request for this funding, and we've got this huge idea with all these nonprofits coming together, and it's going to be a mecca of nonprofits getting all this money. I just watched how you mismanaged money, like the state of California, and then wanted people to stop asking questions when it disappeared.
It'll work this time.
For sure. So, but the funny story is, out of that meeting and out of that huge wagon wheel type
Yep.
plan, this was the final product, the Signature Healthcare. This is who she decided to jump in bed with.
Who is she? What makes her so important?
Well, she says, and in this presentation that she did, she says, you know, I'm nobody special, but I am really good at writing for grant funding.
Oh, boy.
She's really good at applying for it.
And you know, those people that are in charge of these nonprofits, they're getting a very good salary.
And if
It's
you watch,
no wonder
look
they
at
don't
her
have
salary.
any profits because they're taking them all.
Right. Look at her salary and look where it jumped, where it started, where it jumped each year.
It started about $18,000 4 or 5 years ago, and it's well over $200,000 now, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the last time I looked at it, it was between 250 and 300. So, but the thing is,
So what's her accomplishments for that money?
well, you see one program fail,
Crickets.
you see one
Crickets.
program fail, you see you partner with another program. 5
And the
years.
failed recall people are 100% behind that. Go look at the quality of those people.
Right. Well, and here's the problem is you are taking this hope, you're taking this issue and you're wrapping it with this pretty bow and you're saying, here's the solution, trust me. But don't look into it. Don't ask me any questions. Don't hold me accountable. Don't expect transparency, but trust me. If you were not fighting so hard on the transparency, if you were not fighting so hard to be the victim, maybe I would trust you, right? But she hops on Kevin's Facebook page and says, you know, Kevin, stick to the facts. This type of statement is dangerous, but, you know, maybe you should just take your personal feelings about me out of the situation and stick to the facts. So I replied back to her and I said, I think all he's dealing with is facts. I said I reached out to him personally along with every other supervisor and I talked about the fact that there was missing funds that didn't make sense and we asked about it and you shut us down with the cease and desist letter. So I don't trust you, and that was my opinion and my input to all 5 supervisors, giving them an opportunity to say what they want. Kevin had nothing to say about you. Good, bad, ugly, otherwise, it's not about his opinion. It's about the facts that this is not good for Shasta County, and we don't want to get saddled with the fallout when just like everything else you've touched has turned to crap,
Good point.
right?
That's right.
So, just my humble opinion. Who am I?
Number 7, the retirement raid.
For decades, California was a dream destination for retirees. Sunshine, scenic coasts, and a sense of security after a lifetime of hard work. But in 2026, that dream is turning into a financial nightmare for many seniors as the state eyes new ways to tax retirement income and savings. The latest proposals in the legislature hint at changes that could treat pensions, 401k withdrawals, and certain Social Security benefits as taxable income at higher rates than before. Even retirees who thought they'd planned everything perfectly are discovering that their fixed income isn't as fixed as they believed. One of the most controversial ideas under review is the so-called retirement equity adjustment, a policy that would close what lawmakers call tax loopholes for upper middle income retirees. But in practice, it could push many moderate retirees into higher tax brackets. Imagine living on a modest pension of $60,000 a year and suddenly owing thousands more in state taxes simply because of a new income classification. For those who spent their lives in public service or small business ownership, it feels less like fairness and more like punishment for longevity. The problem doesn't end there. California's skyrocketing cost of living, combined with property tax reassessments and rising healthcare premiums, is putting unprecedented pressure on seniors who want to age in place. Assisted living facilities, already expensive, are expected to increase their rates as utilities and labor costs climb under new tax burdens. Many older Californians are being forced to make impossible choices: sell their homes and move out of state, or stay and watch their savings evaporate under the weight of compounded taxes and expenses. Financial experts are calling it the retirement raid, a stealthy erosion of financial independence for an entire generation. Unlike income earners, retirees have limited flexibility to adjust their finances or seek higher wages. Their nest eggs, once considered safe, are being eaten away by inflation and taxation simultaneously. Some retirees are already relocating to states like Nevada or Florida, where retirement income is tax-free, while others feel trapped, emotionally tied to their communities, but financially pushed to the brink. In short, California's 2026 tax changes don't just challenge the wealthy, they threaten to rewrite what it means to retire comfortably in the Golden State. For many lifelong residents, the question has shifted from, where will I retire, to, can I even afford to?
Well, I want to walk back that comment about lobotomies for the mentally ill and push them onto these people that are coming up with these new taxes. They need a lobotomy.
Well, they need ripped out of office and some of them investigated and arrested. But if they don't start taxing higher people's retirement, those people who did the right thing, joined the military right out of high school, got a real job, went to college, worked hard, started at the beginning, invented an idea, busted their butt, took care of their family, right? If we don't start taxing those people higher, who's going to pay the reparations for the people who were never slaves and never owned slaves in a state that never had slaves?
Yeah, I agree with you. They mentioned that a modest retirement is $60,000. I know a lot of people that have never made that in 1 year.
Right.
The modest retirement of $60,000 is government workers, non-tax producers that seem to make the rules.
Right. Well, and the thing is, you're only able to retire in California if you already own that home, right? You're not paying a mortgage. You have worked into it and paid into it, and not if you are counting on Social Security or like a publicly traded retirement at all, because by the time somebody like me gets there, none of that's going to be available because we've squandered it away.
Well, we haven't. The government has.
Right.
Keep in mind, too, that these are state taxes. The feds aren't involved in this at all. They've got their own set of tax raises, I suspect.
Right.
Number 8, the middle class meltdown. For years, California's middle class was the engine that kept the state thriving. Teachers, nurses, small business owners, and office workers who paid their taxes, raised families, and built communities. But by 2026, that middle class is being pushed to the breaking point. Between surging costs of living, shrinking take-home pay, and relentless tax adjustments, the very people who built California's economy are now struggling to stay afloat. Experts call it the quiet collapse, a slow but steady economic squeeze that's making middle-income life nearly impossible. The root of this meltdown lies in a perfect storm of financial pressures. Bracket creep, caused by inflation and delayed income tax adjustments, is pushing middle-class earners into higher tax brackets without any real increase in their purchasing power. Combine that with new local levies, utility surcharges, and hidden fees, and the average Californian is paying more for less. A family earning $100,000, once comfortably middle class, now faces costs that rival those of luxury living elsewhere in the country. Rent or mortgage payments can easily consume over half of that income, while healthcare, gas, and groceries take another third. What's left barely covers the basics, let alone savings or leisure. The emotional toll is just as severe. Many families describe feeling trapped, too well off to qualify for assistance, but not wealthy enough to survive comfortably. It's a dangerous in-between zone where frustration festers and dreams fade. Parents who once envisioned sending their kids to college in state now question whether they can afford it. Even dual-income households, which used to represent stability, are struggling to manage the relentless rise in daily expenses. Adding to the strain are new regional taxes aimed at funding infrastructure and climate initiatives, which, while noble in intent, land hardest on those with modest incomes. These taxes don't just chip away at paychecks, they chip away at morale. Californians are realizing that hard work no longer guarantees progress, it merely keeps them from falling further behind. The result is a mass migration mindset. People aren't just leaving because they want something new, they're leaving because they feel the system no longer works for them. By 2026, California's middle class, once its proud backbone, is now its most endangered group. The dream that once defined the state has transformed into a daily struggle for survival. And if the trend continues, the term middle class in California may soon become nothing more than a memory.
Number 9, the service sector shock. California's service industry, once the beating heart of its economy, is entering a full-blown crisis in 2026. From restaurant owners and barbers to rideshare drivers and cleaning staff, the service sector is being hit from all sides by new taxes, rising wages, and regulatory costs. What was once considered the state's most dynamic and resilient economic pillar is now crumbling under a mountain of financial pressure. With the new Labor Fair Compensation Act taking effect, small businesses are required to increase hourly wages and provide additional worker benefits, costs that, while morally sound, are practically unsustainable in a market already dominated by inflation and tight margins. For a small restaurant in Los Angeles or a local salon in San Diego, these mandates mean survival is no longer guaranteed. Owners are slashing staff hours, raising prices, or closing altogether. The ripple effect is devastating. Fewer jobs, shorter hours, and skyrocketing costs for consumers. A haircut that once cost $25 might now cost $40. A simple meal at a local cafe can easily top $25 per person. Everyday services that once defined California's convenience-driven lifestyle are fast becoming luxuries for the average resident. Adding to the chaos are the new state-level compliance fees that target gig workers and freelancers, a demographic that exploded after the pandemic. Under the 2026 revisions, independent contractors face higher self-employment taxes and must now contribute to state-funded benefit pools, even if they never use them. For many Uber drivers, delivery workers, and digital freelancers, this means taking home significantly less income. What was once seen as flexible freedom is now viewed as a tax trap, forcing thousands to consider leaving the state or abandoning their independent careers altogether. The service sector collapse is more than an economic issue, it's a cultural one. California's charm has always rested on its vibrant, accessible lifestyle. The corner coffee shop, the neighborhood taco stand, the friendly local mechanic. But as operating costs rise and small operators fold, that character is disappearing. The landscape is being replaced by chains, automation, and faceless corporate franchises. The local flavor, the human touch, is fading.
Number 10, the final straw.
So on the service industry thing, you work in the service industry.
Yes.
You own your own business.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I see a lot of small businesses folding that I depend on, and I'm losing business. The 2008 recession, I lost 50% of my business. And, you know, it picked back up, but it never got close to what it was. And now I'm seeing small businesses that close up or change hands. And usually when a business changes hands, they're looking to cut costs.
Right.
And it's the service personnel. If they can do it themselves, they cut the costs. And I don't see anything good coming of it. It's disappointing that you just can't go out and sell your labor and make a living.
Right. And then they talk about, you know, losing that local flair and that, you know, you see Palo Cedro fighting this all the time.
Yes.
Right. And you see people wanting to renovate downtown and make it, you know, San Francisco Junior and, you know, skyrise parking and all this junk. But then it starts to spread out. And then they want to bring that to places like Palo Cedro. And Palo Cedro is saying, no, we like having, you know, our small town mom and pop stuff. and it's getting choked out by these big chain restaurants, these big chain things that they're trying to push out into the outer communities, like, you know, Palisadro, and they're trying to keep their charm.
I understand that, and I'm all for Palisadro, but at the same time, I'm not for the government telling you what you can put in where. It takes away the capitalism entrepreneurship part of it. And a good example is the riverfront specific plan that they're doing down
Right.
here. From 44 Bridge down to Cypress Street Bridge, that's privately owned. Yet the city's going to tell them what they can put in there and what they can't put in there. And there's got to be a line someplace.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what created the whole thing with Reverge Anselmo, is he owned his property. He
Absolutely.
had, you know, his own stuff that he wanted to do on his own property with his own money, but because it was going to compete with the Sheridan and the City of Reading's plans, they're going to shut it down and tell him he can't do it.
That and the main code enforcement feller and Leonard Modi. They got in a pissing match and ran him off. And that was a very detrimental thing to Shasta County because Reverge spent way over $30 million up there, and he was attracting people to come up there. He ran a class act.
Yeah. And now he's, you know, doing it in another state. And he pours into, you know, he had an elevator issue. He's in Connecticut right now, I think, or something like. He had an elevator in his building that he's in now that had an issue. He called the local MIT or whatever it is college, said, "Why don't you make this a project? I'll give you however much." He's not allowed to pay them to do the work, so he made this big donation, and then he threw them like a big tent circus party. And
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, they came
like-
out and fixed his elevator as a project.
Yeah.
Good for
and
him.
then he donated back to it, and then he gave these kids like this huge opportunity and all this fun, and like that's the type of person he was. And could you imagine what he could be doing for kids at Simpson or kids at Shasta? Or, you know, if we're putting in a medical school and he's like, "Heck, I'm 97 years old and I'm going to come down with cancer, so let's just make all of you doctors for fun." You know, like,
There you go.
that's the type of person he was.
Well, you
And
know,
we just kicked him out.
the same thing happened in downtown Reading. You had the lingerie shop over here, Kiss Me, and actually, Tanessa Audette was the one I listened to. We don't want those kind of businesses in downtown. And, you know, I went over and talked to the gal for a half hour that owns it. I mean, it was a class act in there. Who's the government to tell them they can't put that in
Right.
there? I could see a strip joint or something not wanting to be
Well,
in there.
and
but
the thing is, I would much rather have a fancy lingerie, custom bra shop, whatever that they are,
I spent a lot
then-
of time at the custom bra section.
then I would. You drive down Churn Creek, how many neon signs do you have for massage?
Oh, yes.
Right? Like, if we can go through and shut down all of those, that I think.
Well, you know, if we shut down massage and fingernail places and ugly came into vogue for women, we'd go into a major depression.
I'm
There's
not
two or
saying,
three
I'm
in
not
there.
saying get
I'm
rid of the
just
nail
teasing you.
shops. I'm saying when you're driving down at 9, 10 o'clock at night and there's a neon open sign for a massage place, I'm guessing it's not regular massage happening.
So let me say something about Tanessa. I didn't agree with her when she was beat Mark out of being mayor, Mark Mazzano. I didn't agree with her kicking Cameron Middleton and that other guy off the planning department. But I've gained a lot of respect for her when it comes to finding out what's happening with the finances of the city of Reading. And there's nobody that I agree 100% with. I have problems with a few of the things Kevin Cry is doing. Mark Mazzano, you know, I've come to the conclusion that he's quite liberal. But he put that aside and would work with any of the citizens that had a problem in the city of Reading. You know, so there's Tanessa is doing right now probably one of the best things that's happened to the city of Reading when it comes to figuring out why we're broke.
Absolutely. And you know what? I was on
And I like Tanessa. I've gotten to talk to her a little bit, and I like her.
Oh yeah, no, I love her. I think she's great. But I was on an airplane with a lady, and as soon as she said she's from Washington, D.C., and as soon as I said I'm from California, and her response was, "Oh," and not, oh, I knew what I was dealing with, right? And so I'm having a conversation with her, but she just kept saying over and over, Trump is evil. He's an evil man. Well, guess what? You don't need to invite him to dinner. He
That's
doesn't
right.
need to come to your kid's birthday party. But is he doing a good job, right? You're not going to agree with everything. You know, the people that are like, you know, Kevin's got an attitude problem. Kevin, you know, likes to... Okay, so you don't like his personality. Great. Don't invite him over for dinner.
Look
But
at his
is he doing
accomplishments.
a good job asking hard questions?
Sure.
Is he doing a good job cutting fat where fat can be cut? Is he doing a good job holding the people accountable that are in charge of their stuff?
Let
right?
me go a little further on that. I didn't agree with anything Leonard Modi did. I didn't agree with anything David Keogh did. You take a look at the Glenn Hawes. Those people didn't do anything for our county. They weren't transparent. They weren't available for you to talk to them. And we've got an open, transparent board right now that 3 of them are throwing town halls. Come on in, ask us anything you want to do. So, you know, we've never had it this good. And if this gets over by 8 o'clock, run on down to Kaleidoscope. Kevin's having his coffee down there this morning. Ask him what might be upsetting to you, or pat him on the back for something good he's done. It'd be hard to pick out which one, but let's check this next one out.
Yep.
Trust in the system is crumbling. Beyond the rising taxes, shrinking paychecks, and vanishing opportunities, the biggest crisis California faces in 2026 is the collapse of public trust. For millions of residents, it's no longer just about how much they're paying, it's about what they're getting in return. Despite record-high tax revenues, the roads remain crumbling, homelessness is at an all-time high, and public schools continue to struggle. People look around and wonder, where is all this money going? That question, more than any policy change, is driving Californians to pack their bags and leave. The disconnect between taxpayers and lawmakers has never felt wider. Sacramento continues to promise reforms, but the results on the ground tell a different story, one of inefficiency, waste, and misplaced priorities. Billions are poured into ambitious climate projects and government expansions, while everyday needs like affordable housing, public safety, and health care are left underfunded. The working and middle classes, once hopeful that paying more would lead to better services, now feel betrayed. They see higher taxes, but fewer results, a system that takes more and gives back less. Adding to the frustration is the growing perception that California's government is no longer accountable to the people it serves. New taxes are passed quietly, embedded within complex legislation that the average voter barely understands. Fees increase year after year, and yet there's little transparency on how those funds are used. For many, it feels like the state has turned into a labyrinth of bureaucracy, one where ordinary citizens are simply revenue sources to keep the machine running. Even longtime Californians, proud of their state's progressive spirit, are questioning whether that vision still works. The promise of innovation and opportunity that once defined California has been replaced by exhaustion and skepticism. The sentiment on the ground is clear. People no longer believe the system is working for them. They've lost faith that change is possible from within. And that loss of faith, that emotional and psychological breaking point, is the real final straw. Because once trust is gone, so is the will to stay and fight. What's left is a slow, steady migration of talent, ambition, and hope, leaving behind a California that feels less like the Golden State and more like a fading reflection of what it once was. So, what do you think? Is California still the land of opportunity, or has it become a warning for the rest of the nation? Share your thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I would love to see them go and recreate this film with today's scenery. This film was in my opinion, awfully old, and everything was beautiful. If they went to the same places, I'll bet it'd be a trashed mess.
Oh, yeah. No, you look at the vehicles and we're looking at maybe 2002, 2005.
Yes.
You know,
You'd be heartbroken if you saw those areas now, I suspect.
I think so. I think so. And, you know, you and I both know, looking at some of them, that huge dome in San Francisco down in, you know, Golden Gate Park.
Yes.
It looks nothing like that.
Yes.
You know, you can't see it not covered in trash.
Oh,
now.
yeah, and you take a look at people going up and down the streets neatly dressed and everything, and you'd see most of them not there, and the ones that were there were dodging, you know, human waste and homeless people and people on fentanyl. And, yeah, it's heartbreaking what has happened to our street. You know, one of the things I think would be one of the biggest things that would help straighten out our state is if every county had a state senator. We would be represented.
Right.
And I think that would just be one of the biggest pluses that's reachable.
So our biggest problem is lack of representation. And if
Yes.
50 passes, it's going to be even worse.
Yes, that's right.
But you know what the other problem is? And it goes all the way down to your local officials. When we had that meeting last week for the city of Reading to explain the finances.
Yes.
Okay. My biggest takeaway from that sums up this video perfectly. When Mike Littell said, it's hard, it's complicated, it is supposed to be complicated, he nailed the problem right on the head. It is not supposed to be complicated. It is not that hard. And anybody in government who tells you it is complicated and it's supposed to be that way needs to be removed.
They made it that way
Because
on purpose.
it was not that way. Our founding fathers made it very simple. And the bureaucrats have made it that way so that you don't ask questions and so you don't look into it and so that you are too overwhelmed getting into it to get involved. And so anybody who tells you it's complicated needs removed.
Mike Littell talked for 6 or 7 minutes, and he didn't say a damn thing.
He didn't say a single thing.
And, you know, he made the dumbest comment, in my opinion. Why don't we turn this over to the grand jury? You need
Oh, my goodness,
accountants. I mean, you know, grand juries are just people like me and you. We don't have the qualifications.
But not only that, do a simple search. What does the grand jury do?
Nothing.
The grand jury decides whether a crime was committed. Period. That's what they do. Tanessa flat out said, I'm not saying there's corruption. I'm not saying
She
there's
never
fraud.
said that.
I'm not saying there was a crime. I'm saying we have a broken thing in our finance system that needs corrected, or we're going to continue to carry it over. In fact, had she been allowed to present her slideshow, she probably could have told us where the problem was, and it could have been corrected that day. But nobody wanted to go backward. We all just want to move forward and push past it. The problem is we have a carryover that is made up and invisible that continues to carry over and bloats our budget, giving us money we don't have to make decisions that we can't make because the money doesn't exist in the first place. And as long as we're carrying that big bubble with us, things are never going to get better. So what we need to do is we need to go back a couple budget cycles. We need to pop the freaking bubble, redo our numbers, and start making cuts to align with what the real numbers are, right?
A friend of mine told me we ought to cut wages by 20%. He was talking about the upper wages. He says, they won't leave. Where are they going to go?
Right. And if they do,
Who
good
cares?
riddance.
Yes. But I just picture Mike Littell up there. We'll turn this over to the grand jury. He sat up there like he's the smartest person in the wood, stuck out his chest and
Oh, man.
smiled. I thought, you idiot.
Dr. Danuka said, sure, let's do it. I walked up to him afterwards and I was like, I swear I love you, but, and he goes, oh, I know it's coming. Like, that was the stupidest thing to agree to because it would do nothing. And the people looking at it know nothing, right?
That's right.
It's you. It's me.
That's
It's
right.
random people who have enough time on their hands to deal with all Dolores Lucero's 97 cases she turns over to them every year.
I wonder what they do at the FBI when they get another folder from her complaining about a crime. Yeah, stick it in a box back there.
She's got a whole round file
Here
at
she
every.
is again.
Every government agency has a round file with her name on it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that a bit. Well, it's been fun today, Leslie. I've enjoyed it very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe not enjoyed it, but do listen to it. This is what our government does to us. Our government's supposed to be for the people. It doesn't appear that way to me anymore.
Well, it's supposed to be for the people, by the people, and of the people. And that means anybody, you and I off the street, should be able to be involved. We should be able to run. We have become a bureaucratic, bloated problem, and we need to take it down from the top down, from the bottom up. We need to get everybody in there that does not care about the people out.
You know, I think Gavin Newsom needs a lobotomy. Can you imagine him walking around with a smile on his face all the time?
He's got the creepiest smile in the world already.
Oh, well. Okay.
All right.
Next week, we'll be here.
Thank you.